opportunity of legally binding U.S.-Russian restraint to begin expanding its arsenal at a historic pace, posing a new threat to strategic stability in the global nonproliferation regime. Concerns existed in President Trump's first administration that China might seek to double the size of its arsenal. Not long after the extension of New START in 2021, China's 3 new ICBM silo fields became front-page news worldwide. Even now, after years of public evidence and calls for transparency from many countries here in the CD and elsewhere, China continues to deny the evidence of these sites and the extent of its nuclear weapons buildup. China remains on track to have over 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030, and Russia is supporting this buildup by helping China develop the weapons-grade fissile material necessary for its expansion. We are clear-eyed and realistic about the speed, scale, and quality of China's historic military buildup. As stated in the National Defense Strategy, we will deter China in the Indo-Pacific through strength, not confrontation, with the understanding that peace is possible on terms favorable to Americans and acceptable to the Chinese. But China refuses to contribute to disarmament objectives we are all here to advance. China's release of an arms control white paper is insufficient. Its actions do not demonstrate its commitment to nuclear arms control and disarmament. It would be irresponsible and short-sighted to extend limits with the Russian Federation bilaterally and not account for these realities. No longer constrained by the political military circumstances of 2010 and the treaty they yielded, and in response to the destabilizing behavior of these countries, the United States can now finally take steps consistent with our national security strategy and national defense strategy to strengthen deterrence on behalf of the American people and our allies. Militarily, the expiration of New START enables the United States to take parallel steps. We will complete our ongoing nuclear modernization programs that were initiated while New START entered into force. The United States also retains non-deployed nuclear capacity that can be used to address the emerging security environment if directed by the President. Such actions include expanding current forces, diversifying our capabilities, developing and fielding new theater-ranged nuclear forces, and adapting our extended deterrence posture as necessary. I'd now like to address an issue where another disparity exists. Last fall, President Trump instructed the Pentagon to start testing our nuclear weapons, quote, on an equal basis, close quote. Specifically, the President was referring to Russian and Chinese nuclear testing in violation of their respective moratoria on yield-producing nuclear tests. Since the President's statement, we have received many questions about what he meant by, quote, an equal basis, close quote. The annual U.S. compliance report has previously assessed that Russia has failed to maintain its testing moratorium by conducting supercritical nuclear weapons tests. Today, I can reveal that the U.S. government is aware that China has conducted nuclear explosive tests, including preparing for tests with designated yields in the hundreds of tons. The PLA sought to conceal testing by obfuscating the nuclear explosions because it recognized these tests violate test ban commitments. China has used decoupling, a method to decrease the effectiveness of seismic monitoring to hide their activities from the world. China conducted one such yield-producing nuclear test on June 22nd of 2020. This confluence of factors, serial Russian violations, growth of worldwide stockpiles, and flaws in New START's design and implementation gives the United States a clear imperative to call for a new architecture that addresses the threats of today, not those of a bygone era. This means taking into account all Russian nuclear weapons, both novel and existing strategic systems, and addressing the breakout growth of Chinese nuclear weapons stockpiles. As I stated earlier, the United States will continue to pursue responsible pathways to reduce the number of nuclear weapons in the world, consistent with President Trump's vision and our obligation under the NPT through both bilateral and multilateral venues. Together, we can prevent an unmitigated nuclear arms race, limit the buildup of nuclear arms, restore responsible behavior when it comes to nuclear testing, and as appropriate, address issues concerning non-NPT nuclear weapons possessing states. While a treaty limiting nuclear weapons can only come from negotiation among sovereign nuclear weapon states, such an arrangement has implications for the security of all states. We hope CD member states will rise to the challenge and use the 2026 CD session to advance this effort. As throughout our history, the United States has maintained a willingness to seek strategic stability in arms control arrangements that are verifiable, enforceable, and contribute to the security of the United States and her allies. What we are proposing is not talks for the sake of talks. With this effort, the United States is looking for meaningful progress based in concrete actions. As we pursue new dialogue and new formats, we won't stand idly by in the face of threats to the United States and our allies. The United States will maintain a robust, credible, and modernized nuclear deterrent to ensure our security preserves peace and stability and negotiate from a position of strength. In doing so, we will prevent anyone from being able to dominate us or our allies so that all nations recognize their interests are best served through peace and restraint. A question for us gathered here today will be how much deterrence is enough. We believe that the answer to that question will depend in part on the success of upcoming multilateral strategic stability discussions. We must act now to strengthen global security and lead the world towards verifiable nuclear weapons reductions. February 5th, 2026, indeed, marks the end of an era, the end of U.S. unilateral restraint. The next era of arms control can and should continue with clear focus, but it will require the participation of more than just Russia at the negotiating table. We cannot promise this process will be quick or easy. Achieving outcomes of value rarely are. But we remain committed to securing a strong outcome and will not accept one that falls short of our standards, nor will we stay silent on noncompliance. We will achieve President Trump's vision for a new, improved, and modernized nuclear weapons treaty that lasts long into the future. I yield back to the charge. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Thomas DiNanno for his remarks. I now open the floor to any delegations who wish to speak. Ambassador of the Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Благодарю вас, господин председатель, за предоставленное слово. Мы выражаем также признательность господину Томасу DiNanno за подробное изложение позиции США по ДСНВ и в целом по тематике контроля над вооружениями. Уважаемые коллеги, Россия, как вторая сторона договора о СНВ, также готова поделиться своими соображениями по ситуации, складывающейся в связи с истечением срока действия договора. Кратко подводя итоги реализации ДСНВ, отмечаем, что, несмотря на ряд проблемных моментов, на определенном историческом этапе данное соглашение сыграло значительную позитивную роль. Договор способствовал усилиям по устранению стимулов гонки стратегических вооружений и позволил предпринять